This episode of Calling It Now was brought to you by my generous supporters on Patreon. Let's begin.
And you did it right from the start.
Hey everyone, Suede here, and it's about time we construct a full-sized farmhouse out of this packet of matchsticks that I like to call Calling It Now. Anime is very much a product of Japan, with many of the ingrained cultural ideals of the Sunrise Islands on prominent display. But what happens when those sensibilities are filtered through the lens of American superhero culture? Well, then you get My Hero Academia, but there's another oddity that might have slipped under the fandom radar, and that's what I'm looking into now. So let's strap on our utility belt, allow our childhood trauma to motivate us to give other people physical trauma, and get on with it! Before that though, rules. This is a show where I let anime that either I or the general population never got round to seeing by watching or perhaps subjecting myself to the very first episode. I give a brief synopsis, provide my personal, subjective opinion on whether I would keep watching based on this episode alone, and then call it now as to how the show's going to turn out. I understand that one episode is not enough to get a handle on most shows overall, but the first impression is still meant to hook you, and I'm just commenting on whether or not I would bite. Along the way, there's going to be some audience participation in the form of guessing what's going to happen next, so pull out your genre awareness spray and follow me. This month's anime was commissioned by Will Herman, who obviously wanted a bit more justice in his reviews. Now, I'm currently working through a long backlog of commissions, so they aren't going to open back up again for a while, but when I do, I'll be sure to let you guys know. Now then, this month we're delving into the rain-slick alley of US-Japan collaboration with Batman, Gotham Knight. Batman as an anime? Maybe they should have called it Batman, Mask of the Fangasm. I joke, but when this anthology series came out in 2008, it must have seemed like a fantastic value proposition. An all-star lineup of comic book writers contributing all new material for a series of short stories animated and directed by some of Japan's best studios. The episode we're looking at being directed by Shojiro Nishimi and animated by Studio 5 Degrees Celsius, both known for their hyperactive work on Tekken Concrete and their work on other East-West collaborations. They even got Kevin Conroy to voice the main mumbler himself, making it almost like an extension of either the animated series or the Arkham games, depending on which one you were raised on. I'm not exaggerating about that either. The 12-year-olds who played Arkham Asylum are all 21 this year. Crazy, right? I wasn't kidding when I said it was a solid writing team either, with this episode in particular being written by Josh Olson, probably most famous for his screenplay for the film version of A History of Violence. Yeah, that sounds like a good fit. Other contributors include 100 Bullets' Brian Azzarello, Eisner Award-winning Greg Rucka, and David S. Goya, who's, well, let's just move on, shall we? Now, for those of you on the fence about whether this counts as anime, I say to you, if a movie was directed by an American and produced in America, you'd call it an American film, even if the screenplay was written by a Japanese person. So by that logic, I'm counting this as anime. Anyway, I solemnly swear, on my honor, such as it is, that I went into this episode completely blind, with even the production research being done after the fact. I'm going to be using the dub this week because, come on. Of course, this being a Batman film, we have to open it with a booming gothic score coupled with a sweeping shot of Call It Now. A bat logo made out of bats that are also made out of bats. B, Batman brooding on a bridge that coincidentally also looks like a bat. Or C, Batman looking down on a crime that tragically mirrors the death of his parents. The irony, etc. And the answer is... B. Give yourself 2 points if you got this or any future questions right, and wrong answers subtract 1 point to a minimum of 0. Yes, it's about as subtle as a brick through the window, but to its credit, that is an object I definitely haven't seen forced into the shape of a bat before, and there has been a surprising amount. It's certainly better than the last time someone tried to make a bat symbol appear on a bridge. But come now, everyone expects brooding, darkness, and bat shapes in a Batman cartoon. How is this going to distinguish itself? Well, with some of the most wholesome graffiti ever put to animation. Look at some of this stuff. Don't sleep. Come on. Have I got a... Oh, wait, I did that one. So yeah, we join up with some teens hanging out in a hollowed out Large Hadron Collider, apparently, who have all apparently experienced something bizarre throughout the day. So we start with Shades over here and... Woo-hoo! Dang, this is some amazing shots and animation. I'm not a big fan of the character design, but the fluidity and kinetic energy really helps sell it. I can't help but be sucked in by this amazing background work, making Gotham seem industrial and alien and excessively foreboding without falling back on the stale, literally Chicago, or alternatively, neon Art Deco Chicago, if we're being really spicy. Look at the bridge, for Pete's sake. It's like 70% wires and poles. Look at those cranes. Okay, to be fair, you probably aren't looking at those cranes, so let's focus on the human lamprey eel over here. I have to say that I'm also really liking how the episode knows when to be frenetic and when to calm down the editing. Before, when Shades was just having fun, the camera angles and constant motion emphasize that. But then, just as in real life, an accident or sudden event can slow everything down to a disturbing degree. That's a good use of cinematic language. But back to our, or shall we say his story, as the Barracuda Man attempts to give new meaning to the term skating accident, but is promptly taken out by Batman himself. Though he seems a little bit different. How? Well, call it now. A, his costume is purple and he's laughing hysterically. B, there's 3 of him. Or C, he's a writhing mass of teeth and angst. And the answer is... C. Yes, it seems that the Bat has become the Blob, which I feel might be diluting his brand a little bit, but hey, at least he keeps his pointy ears. Despite looking like he could just choke the guy unconscious, Batman instead de-belts him, leading to this kind of funny reaction from the perp. Oh no, my belt. You know, I think you underestimate how much the average person relies on a utility belt. All that thing had was my inhaler, painkillers, and some Tic Tacs. Oh, and flashbang! Back into the water! There's no way a liquid vigilante can overtake me in there! I'm so smart. Shades, of course, sees the whole thing, but some of his peeps are skeptical.
Aw, he's tripping. Batman ain't a living shadow. I got that story totally capped.
I love her body language there. Man, that attempt at speaking how teens do was so pathetic, I'm kinda bummed out now. However, this doesn't stop her from indeed totally capping her compadre's tale with an earlier anecdote about how she was grabbed by a cop who then stared at her like she served up tofurkey at Thanksgiving. Odd that she would include that detail, but then she adds the one thing that'll spice up any story, a freaking jetpack. Alright, so now I've got another Barracuda man, although this one's conspicuously absent, its pearly whites, who touches down and grabs a hostage before once again being taken out by the Bat. But again, there appears to be something off about him. Well, call it now. A, he's a literal bat. B, he apparently boiled his previous form because now he's a smoke monster. Or C, he was the hostage all along. And the answer is... A. Yes, I know there is a character in Gotham named Man-Bat, but this one really does appear to be a Batman-Man-Bat. Batman. So he continues his grudge against belts by removing his jetpack, non-lethally tossing it into a building, before turning to the grunt and non-lethally... Excuse explanation, por favor?
I'm making it more colorful, yo.
That's ironic considering that in the next movie when Batman didn't mind killing people, they made it less colorful. But anyway, they head down to the docks where Shades would later pick it up. Very clever. But then the last of their group is skeptical of both their accounts and regales them with his own. This time we're on the not Space Needle when suddenly a guy with 2 megabusters just blast waltz through the freaking gorgeous door. Seriously, these backgrounds have no right to be this insanely well realized in detail. And he enacts the most impractical robbery in... well, the past week, I guess. This is Gotham.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a robbery. Line up in front of me, take all your valuables, and place them in this case.
Yes, citizens, I have brought 2 handheld bazookas and the jetpack to this location so that I may finally realize my dream of robbing the tourists frequenting a highly secure and ludicrously prominent location for a payoff of, I don't know, maybe $200. I love my job! Then Batman, of course, shows up in broad daylight to stop a minor felony because justice! But once again, something's a little off. Call it now. A, he's a Goldern dragon, why not? B, the Batman is now the Robatman. And C, a Colossus Batman appears and scoops the guy into terminal velocity. And the answer is... B. So the Botman tells the bizarrely niche robber to stand down, of course utilizing the Kevin Conroy voice algorithm.
Put down the guns.
You earned that paycheck, Kevin. Then the crook, following his established MO, first tries to hold a kid hostage from like 5 meters away and then escapes in a needlessly convoluted manner when he would have been much easier to lose just going back in the building. But nope, we gotta get a robot Batman chasing a jetpack by impersonating the Tick. I just now realize that's not really something to be apathetic about. So anyway, yes, now the story is complete, with the audience left to draw the conclusion that Batman is a robot flying symbiote, but what's this? It seems that this universe has dramatic irony baked in as that same thug and Batman come crashing through the window. Jeepers, Batman must be knackered. Oh, he is. Well, anything to bring the instigator of a tourist trap robbery to justice, right? So how does this knockdown, drag-out fight finally reach its end? Well, call it now. A. Turns out all 3 Batmen were failed clones created by Lex Luthor and they were all chasing the goon because he was the actual Batman staging a robbery to get their attention. B. The goon gets laid out like a chump by a skateboard in an ironic callback to the first story. Or C. Shades is revealed to be controlling the goon through his AR glasses and the others smash them after it's revealed. And the answer is... B. But not before we get a classic fake out. I wonder if Batman is dead. So the goon is finally subdued and Batman carries him and his ill-gotten brochures away through the smoke, which must have been tricky in his state. Gotta look cool for the youth. Stay in school, kids. Oh, that had better be my pancreas shifting. Oh, and yes, that's Scott Menville, Robin from Teen Titans, playing the kid.
Man, have I got a story for you guys.
Insert, speaking of which, on a scale of 1 to 5, how dead are your parents? Joke, har har. Well, that was Batman Gotham Knight. Did it hook me? A take on Batman that doesn't instantly feel like we've been here before like 50 times already? Heck yeah, it did. Honestly, the only thing in this episode that's kind of been done is having a story told through the perspective of bystanders, but aside from that, it's staggering how much originality they crammed into this thing. First of all, I know I brought this up, but once again, Gotham has never looked more intimidating. The whole idea of Gotham is that it's a beautiful city choked by corruption and oppression, and the way they realized that here was through soaking the architecture in a kind of prickly, busy spiderweb of filigree and industrial viscera, like a kind of metropolitan black mold. Because of this, the locations are unsettling and standoffish, while simultaneously having the potential to be awesome and beautiful, even in broad daylight, which is another thing not often seen in a Batman story. Secondly, it's been said in the Bat fandom that the best stories are told when the titular vigilante takes a back seat and fills the role of catalyst, or perhaps force of nature, that simply acts as a bizarre constant in a chaotic setting. From The Killing Joke to Arkham Asylum, A Serious House on a Serious Earth, and even the animated series with episodes like Almost Gotham and The Man Who Killed Batman, it seems that now that the collective consciousness is well aware of what makes Batman tick, we're more fascinated by how he makes other people tick. Seeing how myths and legends can grow due to unreliable narrators and youthful exuberance within a setting that already allows for insane events to occur without embellishment is fascinating, and you can understand how wild stories like that can grow when there really is a human-bat hybrid, a lump of human putty, and a psycho with a jetpack running around in the city. Why couldn't Batman be one of those? As I said, I'd almost given up on the idea that there were truly original takes left to tell in the Batman universe, but this is a tight, well-told and exciting story, even if the main characters weren't so good at telling it. The character designs were a little ugly, and the attempts at recreating teen speech patterns were somewhat...
Oh, that's amazing, man.
Aw, he's tripping. Batman ain't a living shadow. I got that story totally capped.
lacking, but those were easily ignorable smudges on an otherwise excellent romp. Would I watch it to the end if I had time? Huh? Sorry, I was too busy queuing up the next episode. Of course I would. If the other episodes are anything like as awesome as this one, I'm set for the series. With an opener like that, I'm chomping at the bit for more unique takes from unique perspectives, both authorial and characterial. Is that a word? What's amazing is that every single episode is available to watch right now for free on YouTube. Link in the description. There's no excuse to at least check it out, even if I'm wrong and it does go off the rails. But do I think it'll go off the rails? Well, calling it now and keeping it cautiously optimistic, I'm guessing that for the most part it continues the animatrix style format of short vignettes set in Gotham with wildly different art styles and subject matter. Ones I'd like to see are A Day in Alfred's Life, an illustrated history of Gotham City, Jack Ryder's radio show getting hijacked by the Joker, or even an episode following a Riddler case where they don't show you the ending but it's possible to figure it out through the clues. Maybe it also has a tenuous link running through all of them, like that briefcase showing up in every episode. If they were trying to be really clever, they might also reference elements of all the previous episodes and the last one, but to be honest, I'm kind of hoping they don't go down that route, as it would kind of confuse the world building to see the Gotham shown in this episode presented as being the same one as in another episode where it looks more like Aeon Flux, for instance. But if I had to guess, I think that's what they're going to do. But what am I talking about? That's way too convoluted. No, all these strange POVs with wildly fluctuating animation styles are clearly a setup for a big reveal at the end that Scarecrow's been poisoning the water supply so the citizens see their city in the most nightmarish ways. What? That's been done? Okay, well, then it turns out that those kids really did see those nightmare versions of Batman, because after several other episodes that show him doing things he wouldn't normally do as kind of what-if stories, we find out at the end that Batmite has matured into an angsty teen and has been collecting all the edgiest and most extreme versions of Batman from across the alternate dimensions for the real Batman, and that good version of the Joker that they did that I always wanted to see more of, to finally face down as a literal struggle against his inner demons. It's so obvious! What? What the heck is Dark Knight's metal? Oh, come on! Oh boy, this is some nice falafel. Who are the other patrons? What? Oh no. Spill it if you enjoy. Using my kneecaps. Yes, we've all heard the... What am I saying? Okay, well, the main group consists of John, Joel Young, P.O.B., Joel Schooler, Gray Morality, Alison Bennett, Jonathan Powell, Matt Stores. That's his name. That's not just me catching my breath. Goose Wright Suppose, Calvin Atkinson, Cartoon Kitsune, Christian Larson, Mitchell Henkelman, Colleen, Henry H., Jacob Sullivan, Brendan A. Hall, Wesley Fox, Ginkgo, Joey Bennett, Daniel Waldron, Winters King, Lucas Newmeyer, The Dom Smith, Colin Ryder McRae, Deep Color, and Nefarious Tangent. That's not enough. I need to cut off the head. Who's funneling the most money in? Oh, jeez. Well, there's Trey McGowan. He looks like a chicken. Mark Dean. Green hair. He looks like he flaunts the law. Grant Gangle. Great, another Scarecrow ripoff. Colleen French. Batgirl? Loomsy 96. Why would anyone wear tights in public? Taking 101. Straw. Another Scarecrow. Is he making a cult? Ryan Griffin. That vehicle isn't street legal. Andrew Welsh. Reading books at home like a superstitious coward. Zachary Taylor. Corruption in our own government. Zach Geller. More secret organizations. Super Bunny Bun. Great, now the Mad Hatter has flunkies. Stephen Walker. Stop brooding. That's my thing. Dark Mage 070777. I told Zatanna to stop advertising interns. The Dark Master. No more dark-winged creatures. I get enough trouble from Man-Bat. And James Nicholson. What? Of course, there's still Wheels, Jonathan Johnson, Cameron McLeod, Joe, Sean Ryan, Brent Myrand, Adam One-Eye, Tyler McMahon, Evan Bow, Oliver, and Kyle Brackman. But they haven't even gotten what they paid for yet.
Oh, they will. They'll get paid. Injustice.
So that was Gotham Knight. Remember that this is still early days and I'm always looking for feedback. Thanks for indulging and calling it now. You're going to put on the bat voice at least once this week.
You can't get away from Batman that easy.
Easily.
Easily.
Good grammar is essential.
Thank you, Batman.
You're welcome.